Welcome into this week's edition of the Bobcast. I'm Dan Wallace with you. A little bit of a shorter version of the Bobcast this week. A few of our coaches out on spring break trips, but we still have some coaches here, so we still have some action to get into. And we start with men's lacrosse this week and head coach Tommy Pierce. Coach, let's take a look back first at the week that was. And it started on Wednesday with a road trip to Messiah. And what I think you will kind of have to look back on it and say that's a very good win for your team, a 14-10 victory, and the offense was really clicking. That's what got you guys the victory.
Yeah, for sure. Messiah had some really great results in some close games. I think they took OU to overtime before Ohio Wesleyan beat Salisbury, and then F&M really handled us pretty well, and they played them a lot better than we did. So that was we've been talking about just trying to get better and be ready for the conference schedule, and I think that hopefully that score indicated that we're going in the right direction with conference play right around the corner here.
A big day for your first group of guys. All 14 goals coming from the combination of Gross, Colgrove, Lucas, Rupert, Clinton, Carroll, the six guys that you really see on offense the majority of the time. What makes this group of six guys so special, and why do they work so well together?
I think a lot of those guys have played together. Jason's a really good finisher, so he's really able when he gets an opportunity based on some of those other guys dodging and drawing some slides. He's finishing at a really great percentage. Paul Rupert's he's all over the place. He cuts like crazy. He's tough to defend, and he's a really good finisher inside. We actually got out of a team meeting just now, kind of with it being spring break. We have some extra time with the guys, and we actually said that we need some other guys to come along because we hope that at some point spring does arrive. It doesn't look like it's arriving this week. But if we get into the conference tournament and it's 75, 80 degrees one day, those six guys can't do everything. So we're really going to try to bring some guys along this week when we have some more time with them. I think those six guys are doing a great job. But again, it's hard to rely on six guys all the time. That's a lot of minutes to play in the midfield. So.
We flipped the script a little bit then to Saturday. It was a bit of a different game. Only 7 goals, a 7-3 win over Brockport. It wasn't the offense that got the job done. It was on the defensive side, only allowing those 3 goals. What worked so well on the defensive side for your team on Saturday, and what was some harsh conditions with the cold?
Yeah, I think of the 3 goals we gave up, 2 of them were man down goals, and then one, I think, Jimmy Lucas kind of had a atypical turnover for him in transition that gave them just a break. So I think that in the half field, we were great. Last year I think our defense was our strength of our team, as I've said before, and I think we thought they were going to be coming into the year, and it was just taking them a little bit longer to gel. Jack made 11 saves and only gave up 3 goals, so Jack's really seeing the ball. But on the offensive end, we definitely, I think, we scored 2 man-up goals, and I think we scored 2 goals kind of catching some numbers our way in substitution. So we really, I think, only scored a few goals in 6-on-6, and that's, again, we just got out of a team meeting, and that's being addressed this week for sure. So.
You mentioned Jack, and he did have a great day in net for you guys. Only being a sophomore, you still get 2 more years with him after this. What makes him such a special goalkeeper? He's one of the tops in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, he's a competitor. He's very, very passionate about, in practice even, we have to tell him every now and then to step out of the goal to let our other guys, get in a little bit. He doesn't like to leave the cage. He's just really possessive of it and hates it when our assistant coaches score a goal on him in warm-ups. He's just super, super competitive and, he's obviously, aside from that, he's got some physical abilities. He's got very, very quick hands. He's a great athlete. He's actually, one of our best guys in the weight room. So he's a real athlete and, really, really good at seeing the ball and stopping it. But also, very driven by his competitive nature, no doubt.
Well, now we get into what is really the nitty-gritty, the thick of things here. You still have one more non-conference game later on in the season against Elizabethtown, but now we get to jump into CAC play with a couple of games coming up this week. Before we talk about those matchups, right now looking at it, going into your first conference game on Wednesday, what is your expectation for this team in the Capital Athletic Conference, and where do you think you guys stack up with the rest of the league? What is your outlook on the league?
I think going into it, I would have liked to have had a little bit more of a consistent offensive output from Wednesday to Saturday. I kind of felt pretty good about our offense, and now I'm not too sure again. But I think that in our conference, really anybody can beat anybody. I think last year, we won a couple games by 1 goal, and then we lost, a couple by 2. We lost to York by 1. We lost to Mary Washington by 2 a couple times. So, what we're talking about with guys is that those 1 and 2 goal games probably swing towards the team that pays the most attention to detail, and takes care of the ball and doesn't have the silly turnovers and, picks up, those loose ground balls a little bit more. So, there's a lot of just wanting it, wanting to not turn it over, wanting to pick up every ground ball, making sure that we're confident in what we're doing, offensively and defensively, and knowing our schemes. But then there's that kind of that part of it that's just a little bit of like the passion and the desire, because like I said, it's a really contested conference, and a lot of pride between the teams. So I think that everybody kind of raises to the level of the conference a little bit just because of the conference that it is and how competitive it is.
There's no doubt about it. The CAC is one of the best, if not the top, Division III lacrosse conference in the country, and you get to jump into those CAC games starting on Wednesday with a trip down to Mary Washington, and we know the conditions might be a little questionable right now with what we're looking at, but heading into that game, what are you expecting, and what do you know about this Mary Washington team so far?
They've got a couple offensive guys that have been they're better players for, it's one of those things every year I do the scouting report. I'm like, man, he's still there. Shea McKenzie, and Dingman are great two-way middies, really tough matchups and great players. Their goalie's great. Their face-off guy, really had our number last year. We lost to them twice last year, and they thoroughly dominated us on face-offs, which is, puts you behind the eight ball on possessions there. But they're a very well-coached team, and they know what they're trying to get out of their offense. They really, really love to push transition defense to offense, and they get some goals in transition and early offense that, we've gotten better at that, but against F&M earlier in the year, that really crushed us. So I think, hopefully having that weakness exposed makes us a little bit better now. Going into Mary Washington, obviously, you got to find the positive in those things. So, but, we think we have a pretty good idea what they want to do and who their main guys are that try to do it. So, we're going to try to get zoned in on that and hopefully, make it tough for them. Well,
Saturday, either way, the conditions should be a little bit better down in Newport News, Virginia, when you take on the Christopher Newport Captains. Same thing, Tommy. It's a Christopher Newport team that coming into this year, you think you might have a good shot at. And what are your takeaways from this game? What are you expecting to see from Christopher Newport, and what do you guys have to do to be successful?
The Christopher Newport coaches and I always joke that I don't know how many times we've played each other, but I think we've had one game that was a 2-goal differential, and every other game we've played has been a 1-goal win for either team. It's all Christopher Newport and Frostburg do is just play close games. I think that they're very, very patient on offense, and they're pretty deliberate, and they wait till they get an opportunity and they take advantage of it, which is something that I'd like to see our guys maybe get better at, not a little bit better at, a lot better at. Their face-off guy is very, very good. They've got a good defense. In the past, they've played they get out of zone and man and make you kind of recognize and be prepared to play offense a couple different ways. They're tough. I think they're like I said, it's always been a really good game, and I think that in a game that's probably going to be pretty close, again, it comes down to those little things. Who gets a couple more offensive possessions to score that one extra goal because you're tough on ground balls and didn't have any silly turnovers.
Well, Tommy, thanks for the time. Thanks for joining us. Good luck in these two games coming up this week, and we'll talk to you hopefully after a 2-0 start to the Capital Athletic Conference slate next week.
Thank you.
Joined now on the Bobcast by head baseball coach Guy Robertson. Coach, only 2 games this week, a little bit of a shorter week for you, and we start with that game at Shenandoah on Saturday. And I think the spot to look first and foremost is, okay, we finally saw that Greg Schneider is a little bit human. 5 innings, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, 4 walks. He had a little bit of a rough start, only getting through the 5 innings. Mike Livingston came in and did a fantastic job in relief for you guys, but it might actually be good maybe in a way to see that Greg can still slip up, and because he was impossible for him to just continue that stretch that he was having the entire season, maybe get it out of the way, get one bad start out of the way, and still get a win out of it.
Yeah, 9 strikeouts and calling that a human effort. There was a ton of guys out there across the country at this level that would take 9 strikeouts.
Absolutely.
And, that would be an amazing day for them. So, yeah, I guess you could call them human numbers anyways for him. It was one of those days where, it was cold and it snowed half the game, and he'd been sick all week, and, but the guy's always going to take the ball, and he just went out and gave us a gutty performance for 5 innings. And, even with what I would consider probably his C game, still worked his way through the hitters and through their lineup and got us through 5 innings. And it was a tremendous matchup. The guy on the other side, Colin Morris, was by some people's accounts considered a pro prospect. And in my opinion, with his C game, Greg was still considerably better than the guy across from him. I think Colin only ended up going 4 innings, and Greg, got us 5, and certainly did a good job. And I just think that in his presence, regardless of what he has that particular day, his presence is always going to give this group, a tremendous amount of confidence, and know that we're going to be in the ball game and hopefully have a lead when he leaves. And that was the case again on Saturday. And it just it hadn't been that dominating, longer performance like he's kind of had obviously every outing where he's gone deeper into the ball game, but. And you're going to have days like this, and you got to have other guys to pick you up. And Mike did a tremendous job, came in, and I couldn't, tell you that he would have gone 4 innings, but he went through the 6th and the 7th and 12 pitches, so you might as well not even have counted those. And he threw more pitches in the bullpen. So, that just kind of set it up where you're 12 pitches in, and now you're to the 8th, where he's been a multiple inning guy all along anyways, and that's kind of what we thought about. And and then you're just to a point where, he threw 12 warm-up pitches and just having to get 6 outs to get to the 8th. So, really, it just, he became his own bridge guy, to get to the end of the game. And we just felt like we wanted to push our cards to the table with Mike there. And I kind of had Brady in the back of my mind, just trying to get him set up and get him prepared to move forward here on Wednesday. And it just turned out we didn't need him. So. It was a good day all in all, and certainly a tremendous opponent and a good win for us, and I have a lot of respect for those guys down there, and I think I mentioned that last week. Those guys have been the bar for D3 baseball over the last decade, and to go down there and have success like we did, I think it speaks to what we're capable of moving forward. So hopefully that's something that we can build off of, and I'd say that, and then 24 hours later, which is going to bring your next question, it wasn't so good. So, but real happy with the way Saturday turned out. Happy with the way Greg and Mike pitched, and certainly we got some other big performances there as well.
That does bring me to my next question about the pick. Greensburg, a game that wasn't actually supposed to happen on Sunday because, well, it ends up happening because of the fact that we can't play baseball in Frostburg in March. So we end up moving that game up from Tuesday to Sunday, going to Greensburg, and a 10-8 loss. And I go ahead and say, I was going to say that, the bullpen has been something that's been a big addition for you guys this year. That was one of your biggest issues a year ago, and then it kind of reared its ugly head a little bit again on Sunday. 5 guys combining to allow 8 earned runs. A little bit of a rough day, but offensively still a good day, able to put up the 8 runs, and a couple guys, Colton Civic, 2 hits on the day, Devin Griffith, 2 hits on the day as well, and Matt Bogart, 2 and 3 RBIs. Offensively still a very good day, just struggled a little bit on the mound.
Yeah, I was glad that we were able to get some guys back out there and get them going. I mean, again, we keep having these two-game weeks, and you can't kind of grow and mold your pitching staff, beyond a couple of guys here. And so it was good to get some other guys out there. Just didn't, play out like we'd hoped. In the 9th and the 10th, we had the lead, and I'm not sure that we deserved to have the lead at any point in the game, to be perfectly honest with you. They gave us a lot of those 8 runs. We didn't earn many of them, and we left the bases, tons of guys on base all day long, had several chances to blow the game open with a hit here or hit there, or even just an execution here or there, and just didn't get it done. And I give a lot of credit to those guys for staying in the ball game and hanging around. And then, they bump into a ball in the 9th, and then they hit a tank in the 10th, and that was all she wrote. So disappointing from the outcome standpoint, but I still think that there was a lot to be gained and a lot to be learned from going through the 9 innings on Sunday. We were forced to push it up. It just was, I don't know, it just had a bad feel all day long, to be perfectly honest with you. Wasn't what you wanted to feel coming out after Saturday, but I still think that there was a lot of positives to take away from it. Even I think we can turn some of those negatives into positives as we move forward. Trent Eric has put in a lot of time and a lot of energy and effort to try to better his craft, and I feel for him. He's a guy that really cares a lot about getting better and working hard and going out there and doing his best, and just gave up that home run through one bad pitch, and it happens. So I'm disappointed for him and obviously for the ball club that it got to that point. But again, there's things to be learned. There's things to be gained. We got Richardson out there for 3 innings, and he did an outstanding job. We got Ryzik back on the mound. We got Christian back out there. And it's been a while for a couple of those guys. And maybe that's a factor. Maybe it's not. It's not an excuse. It just, that's the reality sometimes when you go a couple weeks and you haven't towed the rubber in a while. And you're forced into a situation where you got to be really on your game. And if you haven't pitched for a couple weeks, sometimes that's tough. But that's the reality of the situation. It was one of those, I guess some people use the term, I guess, trap game or, letdown game or whatever. And I don't know that was really the case for us. I just think that it was one of those days where we just didn't play very well, and we didn't do enough on the pitching side or the offensive side to really, offset the other deficiencies. So it happens, and we're going to move forward in a positive direction and try to take what we can from that game. But really, I think it's about taking the positives, the overall, Shenandoah game, and then taking some of these things that we learned from Greensburg and then trying to put those things forward as we move into the conference play here this week.
2 of those conference games coming up on Wednesday and Saturday. Marymount in a doubleheader with Penn State Harrisburg, and then the potential outlook of a game at Bob Wells Field. Maybe. We haven't figured that out yet. You've gone through you're 11-2 now. You've gone through 13 games. You're going to get 3 more games before you even have the potential of a home game. That's going to put you at a total of 16 games. How difficult really is it as a coach to go through this entire half almost of the entire first half of the season, not playing a single game at home, spending so much time on the bus, spending so much time on the road? You get to do a lot of bonding with your guys, but how difficult is it to manage what the outcomes are? I mean, you've done a phenomenal job with an 11-2 record so far, playing every single game away from Bob Wells Field.
Well, it's taxing. There's no question about it. I've always tried to use it as a motivational factor. 5 or 6 years ago, you used to try to, when you're talking to recruits and you're trying to paint a rosy picture about what the weather can be here in February and March, and you talk about, hey, well, there was a time here when we were able to get outside at this date, and we were able to play home games here on that date. They're really few and far between. At the end of the day, we have really done a good job, I think, of honing in on guys that are mentally tough. And have a little grit to them, because that's what you have to have in order to be here. I mean, you talk about not being able to play a home game. We have been on our infield one time since we got back here in January. So it's not even – it's about, persevering and working through, hey, you're constantly indoors. You're constantly indoors. You get on the bus, you go play a game, you come back, you're constantly indoors. It is what it is. It's tough. There's no question. And you do get to do some things, I think, that makes us stronger in the long run. But, where's the breaking point? Where's the tipping point? If this storm hits us like they think it's going to hit us here in the next couple of days, and, who knows when we'll actually be outside, on our field. And I guess I've gotten used to managing it. So you ask me how I do it. Well, this is a reality for me. It's more about how do you get guys that are new to the situation to understand and recognize that, hey, you know what? We're not going to use an excuse. We still can get better. We obviously have the ability to prepare ourselves the way we have to, be it inside. And you just go with it. And, you're going to have bumps in the road, and you're going to have guys, that are tired and drained. I mean, you get on the bus Saturday morning, you go play a game. The schedule's all moved around. You have an emotionally charged game that, was a lot closer than the score maybe dictated because we pulled away there in the 9th a little bit. Then you got to come back. Then you got to get back on the bus again on Sunday morning. That was all messed around, but it is what it is. And we're all going to go through it together, and we all going to work through it together. And I don't think that it's a situation where, hey, we can't overcome these obstacles. And, at least to this point, we've been able to prepare ourselves appropriately and be able to go out and play good baseball regardless of the circumstances. And, that's just going to continue to be the way we have to move forward.
Well, coming up this week, you get what should be 3 Capital Athletic Conference games, your first 3 Capital Athletic Conference games of the season. Let's start with this before we get to the actual matchups. And what do you feel is the outlook for the Capital Athletic Conference this season? How is the conference as a whole, and where do you think you guys fit into that puzzle? I know you're thinking conference championship.
Well, I think first, to answer the first part of your question, if you look at the overall records and some of the wins that some of these programs have had, I mean, CNU's off to a great start. They they have a solid to really good team every year. They got a couple guys down there that are more experienced now that on the mound that can really go deep into ball games and do different things for them to really set them up every time they take the mound. So they're going to be really good and have the ability to make a deep run at this thing. I think everybody knows that. As Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And until somebody knocks Salisbury off, then they're always going to be there at the end. And then you bring into, the equation a bunch of different programs. Marymount's been, in our league the last couple of years have been really, really good. They have a head coach who is probably, I think, the best game manager and preparer of men in Frank Leone in the league. Wesley Brett always has those guys ready to play. And they have a lot of obstacles that they have to overcome, but somehow they're always in the conference tournament mix and, knocking at the door every year. And then I think you throw in there York, who's been a formidable opponent, and Penn State Harrisburg has clearly gotten better. If you look at what they've done, they beat some good teams, and I know they have a couple good arms there that are going to give those guys a chance to win. And on down the line, I mean, St. Mary's and Southern Virginia haven't been as good, but I know the guy down at St. Mary's pretty well, so he's going to be a guy that I know where that program's headed. Southern Virginia's had some good wins this year, so I think it's maybe as wide open as it's ever been from that standpoint. Last year, I thought that the conference was maybe the worst that it's been, in my opinion, talent-wise from top to bottom. Since we've been in the league this year, maybe it flips on its axis. I don't know, but excited to get started. And where do we fit into the mix? Look, we're where we're supposed to be. I don't like to fast forward or look ahead. I know better. If you learned anything from this weekend, you learned that. So you can't. We just got to go and we got to figure out how to win the next game, then how to win the next game, and so on and so forth. But I believe in what we've put together here this year. 2017 was a bad blip on our radar. It was the worst blip on the radar since I've been here. It was really disappointing. But sometimes you got to take a step back to be able to move forward as much as you like. And I've said it several times. It was a huge motivational factor to rebuild this program and get it back going in the right direction. And through 13 ball games this year, I feel like we've accomplished that. But again, you're just slightly past the quarter pole, and now you're starting to get into the really meaningful games. We've figured out how to beat some really good teams. We've lost a couple bad ball games. It's all part of our resume, but I think they're all good experiences for us to go through, and I think we're prepared to move into this part of our season, and I'm excited about it.
So this week it is Marymount. It's a doubleheader with Penn State Harrisburg on Saturday, and then hopefully Gallaudet here at Bob Wells Field on Sunday, pending the weather. Those 4 games for you this week. The week as a whole, what's kind of your outlook for the week, and how you feel about heading into this set of 4 games?
Well, look, I'll make no bones about it. Marymount's kicked my butt the last couple of years. They've gone out, and their starting pitcher, it seems like we face the same guy every time. And he's dominated us, but we're a little bit different. We're a little bit different than maybe the last couple times we faced these guys. I expect us to be able to go out and do more, dictate a little bit more to them. It seems like that we've always been trying to come back, and we make mistakes, and they've been able to capitalize, and they're a scrappy group. But I think that's an appropriate way to open the conference season. With a team that's kind of seems like they have our number. So I think that's going to, test us right away. And Penn State Harrisburg has been, a thorn in our side too. The last couple of years, they've been able to get a ball game from us each weekend. And, it's been split in 16, split in 17. And, they beat some really good pitchers. So, and they have a couple good arms up there too. So I expect the next 3 games to be a tough test. I mean, you look at their overall records, and maybe they don't jump off the page at you, but I know better to think that they're not going to be prepared. And I think that the other thing that our guys need to realize is it's not just Marymount, it's not just Penn State Harrisburg, but giant bullseye back on us. I think that if you paid attention, and I know our guys have over the last couple of weeks, You have teams who have played games right before us or played games the day before us, in some cases doubleheaders the day before they've played us. They've all held their number one guy to throw against us. So, but that's good. Because that's going to continue to occur. We're going to continue to see everybody's best shot. I think we've earned that. To this point in the season, we've earned the right to be, who everybody wants to go out and try to knock off. And I'm proud that, we've been able to handle those situations for the most part. So excited to get going in the conference. I mean, this is what you play for. You want to try to put your conference games, ahead of all the rest. To this point, I think we've prepared ourselves well to move into the CAC. I've always said that this is the most formidable conference in the country when it comes to Division III. And if you have a chance and if you have the ability to get to the top of the mountain here, you've accomplished something. So I'm excited to start that journey as well. I know the guys are. And, we'll see where it takes us over the next 6 to 8 weeks. But it should be a fun ride.
Well, Guy, good luck to you this upcoming week with your 4 games. Hopefully we'll have you on the Bobcat Sports Network on Sunday. That is Mother Nature permitting. We'll find out about that later in the week. But thanks for joining us, and good luck coming up this week. Joined next on the Bobcast by head men's and women's tennis coach Aaron Wilf. And a little bit of a weird week for you, Coach. You come off a week where you have McDaniel and Salisbury a while back, and now just nothing. You have absolutely nothing for a week, and you're getting yourselves ready for spring break, a few matches coming up later on in the week, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. But the fact that you don't really have anything going on, you kind of just get to take it easy for a week, just hold practice. Do you do anything a little bit differently knowing that there's no matches really this week or last week until the end of this upcoming week? Do you handle things any differently with your team?
No, not really. I mean, it's just kind of back to work as usual. We had practice pretty much this whole last week, and weather really didn't permit us to go outside as much as we would have liked, but we got some good time in the gym. So we did get some hitting in. We got some reps. Got to do a little bit, like I said, inside. But really just kind of getting ready for the next week, which is the week that we're currently in, and looking forward to some really good matches at the end of this week.
Coming off a week where you did have the 2 matches against McDaniel and Salisbury, and then the men did have Geneva on March 10th, has this kind of been a good situation for your teams where you can kind of sit back, rest, recuperate, or would you rather just keep on going?
I think there are benefits to both scenarios. I think sometimes, you do kind of want to keep the rhythm up, keep going, keep having a couple matches every single week. Other times it is kind of good to rest, recover, recoup, kind of let the body get refreshed for the upcoming matches. So I think with some players the time off was good. With other players, I think they want to always get back on the court. But the schedule is what it is. There's really nothing we can do about it. We just got to, like I said, keep getting ready, keep getting better, and really try to refocus for the matches we have coming up.
And those matches coming up, you get a little bit of a vacation in a way, but at the same time you got to stay to work. You get to go down to Virginia Beach. The women, they do have a match on Thursday coming up with Virginia Wesley, and then both teams, the men and the women, in Newport News on Friday and Saturday. 3 straight days. We'll start with the women, back to back to back. It's going to be a very, very taxing couple of days for the women. How do you kind of control their performance, control their stamina, control what you can to make sure that they are in the best shape that they can be to have a very, very taxing 3 days?
See, it's going to be interesting. I think it's a similar scenario to what we experienced last year going down to Hilton Head. We actually had 5 matches in 5 days. So in some respects, this is going to feel a little bit easier than it was last year. But, the women have Virginia Wesley on Thursday afternoon. It was a great match last year. It's going to be another, I think, competitive match this year. We have Southern Virginia Friday evening, and then we have Christopher Newport Saturday afternoon. So, 3 matches, 3 days. It's going to be intense. It's going to be competitive. We just have to keep working hard. I think we have to get a good few days in at the first half of this week in practice, start feeling really good about our game, and then just go down there and try to give an A effort. It's going to be challenging, but we look forward to the opportunity.
This is where you already played Salisbury, but now you really start to get into the swing of things when it comes to the CAC matches, into the conference matches, and of course, those are the important ones when you look at the schedule. Southern Virginia, Christopher Newport, both the men and the women get them this weekend. 2 very, very difficult matches. What do you hope to see out of your 2 teams? Let's start with the women. What do you hope to get out of them in 2 pivotal CAC contests?
I just want to see a lot of fight. I really want to see heart on the court. I want to see a lot of the competitive nature coming out of our women's team. I really think we are going to see that. I think the first match, Virginia Wesleyan, is going to be a good build-up to those two CAC contests. And as long as they go out, they battle, they really just leave everything on the court. I think we're going to have success against those two schools.
The other side, the men coming off 3 consecutive losses, what do you hope to see? What is your expectation? What do you want to get out of your men's team to really get on the right track when it comes to conference action?
Yeah, I think on the men's side, we really need to step up our game. I think the men have been playing well. 2 of our last 3 losses have been 5-4. So I think on the court they are getting better. I think it's just a matter now of kind of getting over that hump. And I think it's a great weekend to do that. I think these are 2 very, very good schools. Southern Virginia has gotten a lot stronger since last year. They just look a lot better, so we're very excited for that challenge. And Christopher Newport is, I think, around the top 30 right now in the country. So they're always very solid and presents, like I said before, big challenges for us. But we're going to keep getting better every day. We look forward to it, and we're going to go out, we're going to battle, we're going to leave everything on the court, and we'll see what happens.
I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute now. 2 names, give me 2 names, that one on the men's side, one on the women's side, that you think that these matchups set up well for, that we can expect to have good weekends.
It's always tough to give just one name. Tennis, you have 9 matches going on, for each the men and the women, so very, very tough. There are a lot of matches I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing how Jenna Lipinski does number 2 singles. I think that could be very interesting. I'm looking forward to Sammy Turner, Elizabeth Mott at number 3 doubles on the women's side as well. I think there's a lot of potential for competitive matches on the women's side. Men's side, it's always fun to see Shasta go at number 1 singles. He's he's really kind of the heart and soul. He starts things off for us, and he's always very solid. So I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But really everyone. I mean, it's really tough to kind of pinpoint just one player. Looking forward to see them all, and hopefully we all play well.
Well, Coach, thanks for the time. Best of luck coming up on your spring break trip. And why don't you do us a favor and bring some of that sunshine from Virginia Beach back to Frostburg? I know we're due for some snow this upcoming week, so bring some of that back with you if you would.
We're going to.
Joined now on the Bobcast by head track and field coach Dale Louie. Coach, we're going to start with something a little different because Kayla ended up at the national championships for indoor track and field, and you got back now from Birmingham, Alabama. Let's just start with this. What was the whole event like? You only have 1 athlete down there in Kayla. What was the whole atmosphere surrounding the weekend? How was the trip?
Nationals is always a great experience for the athletes. There are a number of activities that take place, primarily like the banquet, which some athletes love and some don't. Kayla, has a preference to definitely go to the banquet. She was nominated. We nominated her for the Elite 90 award because she carries a 4.0, GPA, and last year she was one of just 5 or 6 people at the national championships. But the tiebreaker it is the number of credits that have been earned so far. So kind of hoping this year she might have won it, but it's still lost out on credits and things. So, but anyways, I think it's an honor to be nominated for something like that and be considered. Very regimented process. This is one of the things we try to harp on. We try to use the national meet as really a learning experience for our entire team. Because there are rules to follow, etc. And sometimes, well, it's like any sport. It depends on the officials how diligent they want to be enforcing rules and things. And at nationals, they're very rigid. And we kind of say to our people, follow the rules, make it a habit. And Kayla has progressed, I think, through that whole process. You become a little bit more comfortable and. Sometimes when you first get there, it seems like it's a pain in the butt, some of what they make you do. But it's a matter of fairness. And every time she's been at nationals, she's gotten a little bit better. So there's progress there. And I think a lot of that has to do with familiarity and not only with the process, but also the competition itself.
So Kayla being your only athlete there, you really got to watch her. You really got to focus on just Kayla Truesdale. What did you think of her performance? Were you happy with it? Were you a little disappointed with it? Where do you think she stacked up in the national ranking of things, and were you content with what she was able to do?
Well, she certainly far exceeded the seed, that she had coming in. So I think we both were, happy on that side of things. Your ultimate goal, though, is to get in the top 8 and make All-American. And, she was not able to do that. And so that's the disappointment, there's no getting around that. Some people might be happy just to get there. That's not her cup of tea. And I'm very happy about that because you want that from an athlete. But overall, when you look at her seed time and what she ran, she didn't run her seed time, but she was one of the few sprinters there who was either exceeding, doing better than their seed time or relatively close. So that indicated to me the track really wasn't a fast track, for the sprinters. It might have been for the distance people. But for the sprinters, it definitely wasn't a fast track. So in some ways, you look at that and it's like, you did a lot better than a lot of other people that, when you look at their seed performances and how close people were. So on that end of things, a real plus. I was pleased with that. And I tried to point that, out to her. And I know our one assistant, Eric Beloga, who was tracking things from back home here, it was something that he picked up on, too, looking at different times and things. We both, Kayla and myself, both recognized she probably made one strategic or tactical error, I should say, coming off the first turn. Probably got going a little too fast there in the first probably 80 meters or so. Although I didn't think it came back to hurt her too bad at the end in the last, 50 meters or so, she made the comment that she was, she felt it a lot more there than normal. Again, on a positive side, I felt she ran outdoor nationals in the 200 last season, and same thing, went out a little too fast and really paid the price outdoors. Indoors here, I felt like she handled that anaerobic lactic buildup there a lot better than she did outdoors. So for me, that's a good sign, something to build off of. I think maybe she's demonstrated to herself she's got that ability to go out that fast and still be somewhat strong at the end. So hopefully we just keep working on that.
Well, now we get the transition. No more indoor track and field. We're done with the indoor for the season. Now we get to the outdoor, and it's a lot of the same. There's a few different events here and there. What is the transition really like, getting your athletes accustomed from being inside to now being in the outside track and field realm?
Well, the weather hasn't been very cooperative there, so
no, it hasn't.
We've been in still quite a bit, more than we definitely would like to be. This week looks like it's not going to be too much better, unfortunately. For the throwers, the transition is, there are some events that we clearly don't have indoors, such as the javelin. Although the footwork of the weight throw and the hammer are similar, two different beasts there. So we are really focusing on making those kinds of transitions. The hurdlers, go from just high hurdles over 60 meters. We've now got 100, 110 meters, male, female. And we've got 400 hurdles outside. So there's a lot of different events that we do have to make that transition to. For the runners, it's kind of nice just to be able to open up that stride and keep it open for a longer period of time rather than going around that small indoor track. So a little easier sometimes on everybody's legs to get outside, even the throwers and stuff. It's a welcome change there for a period of time. So it is a big transition for us, and we've gone a while without meets for a lot of our people, so it'll be interesting to see how they kick back into gear here when we start on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that is going to change on Saturday as you go to Juniata for your first outdoor meet of the season. Two kind of questions here. Number one, what is your expectations since it is the first outdoor meet, and there are certain people that only do outdoor tracks, so for some of them it is their first meet of the season. And number two, the weather's not looking pretty here. It's not looking very pretty at Juniata for the first outdoor meet. We're kind of expecting a little snow, maybe a little bit of a mix. How does that change and affect maybe the outcomes and your strategy?
Yeah. Well, we do look at that a little bit in terms of what events we'll enter our runners in particular. The technical events, it can really have a major impact. It's not that wonderful to pick up a steel shot and in 30-degree weather there and try to throw that. And so for everybody, it's equal out there for everybody competing. We are really looking at it as a chance to let's get out there and start doing something. I think the athletes recognize that during the course of the year there's going to be some nice weather. There's going to be some not so nice weather. One of the things we harp on, I don't know if they listen to us, is collegiately, you really want to work hard at practice because you don't know how many chances you have for nice weather and everything to come together. So it could be this Saturday, it doesn't look that way, but it could be this Saturday. It could be the following Saturday. We could get to May and it could be snowing somewhere. It's happened. It's weird. So you better be ready to take advantage of the situation where it comes. And that's a big transition for our younger people because they come out of high school. A lot of them pretty much just run their way into shape and going to a lot of meets and stuff like that. Well, we don't have that, so practices are really important.
Well, I'll tell you what, at this rate, it may still be snowing here in May if Mother Nature has anything to say about it. Well, Coach, good luck to you and good luck to your athletes on Saturday. It sounded like you had a great time in Birmingham with Kayla, and we hope to talk to you again next week after a good opening meet to the 2018 spring outdoor track and field season.